of the reallocation halfway through the year. It made the budgets look real wonky with big changes and swings. And those were very reasonable with the changes in the general ledger structures. So, big deal, came out good.
It'll take a couple of budget cycles to smooth that out, but we're close, so. 25-26 general assumptions, we have a 2.5% COLA applied to all salaries projections. Benefits expenses are aligned with actuals. There is more work to come on this, but we're fairly close with this budget cycle. Revenue projections are conservative. The expenses do have some minimal contingency built in, just in anticipation of unknown costs. Considering the fluctuations with the departments and the AP coding inconsistencies, we wanted to ensure that we had enough flexibility within the budgets, the department budgets, to ensure that they didn't go over budget in certain areas. Budget based on prior year's experience and zero-based budgeting principles. And the material payables coding concerns were primarily in real estate, maritime operations, and facilities and maintenance departments. There are some smaller impacts to the other departments, but this is the key departments that had the major coding concerns. Next slide. So just a quick overview of the operating revenues and expenses. Our total operating revenues are $75,398,680. Terminal revenues are 20% less than year-end projections. This is due to realignment of cargo projections. Real estate is up over 2% over year-end budget. This is due to renegotiated contracts, and electric utility rates are aligned with market. The indirect revenues are down 10% over year-end projection. This is due to unanticipated claims reimbursements received in fiscal '25, and then non-operating includes grant reimbursements. On to operating expenses. The total is $53,352,630, and the salaries and benefits is a 3% increase over 24-25 year-end projections, but also 8% less than year-end projections. Sources and uses of funds. This is a quick graph of the breakdown of each individual category within the revenues.
Yeah, but before
Yes.
you said that utility was pulled out, that's where I got, so that's in the non-operating?
No, the utility is considered operating. It's just separate from the real estate budget. The way that it had been, coded, if you will, is we had 4 departments in the Great Plains system. We had maritime, warehouse, real estate, and indirect. And within real estate was the electric utility component. So in the new system, we created real estate and then the electric utility. So they each have their own department, so we can track the individual expenses correctly within real estate and the
But
electric
the
utility.
income's in the 41?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then this is the uses of the funds, totaling $67 million. These are all of our expenses, including non-operating and depreciation. This is, these two, we have no control over. These are depreciation expenses that we would have regardless. And then the non-operating expenses are projections based on sale of capital asset expenses and other types of non-operating. Yes.
What makes that professional services?
Professional services is mostly consultant contracts, but it also includes landscaping, pest control, other types of services, service contracts, if you will, but that's what is included in professional services.
So it's $11 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we had seen that in the past if we asked about it, but it'd be nice if we saw more detail to it, because it's just such a huge number.
It's a big part of the budget, too.
As far as who or
Like
Yeah,
it's
just, I'm
art-
sure it's all engineering, it's mostly probably engineering, but just to see,
senior environmental consultants, things
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
yeah. just
There's,
to-
right, there's a remediation and environmental are a large chunk of that amount. The remainder are the professional services consultant contracts that are kind of sprinkled throughout the other departments based on varying needs. As we go through the presentation, I'll have a little bit more specific in some of these some of the departments related to that specific category, but it is primarily environmental and remediation costs.
Would it make sense to separate operating maintenance, like versus consulting?
Well, operating maintenance is separated from the consulting services, and then anything that would be related to a capital improvement project would be capitalized and would not be considered part of the operating budget. So it would be a completely separate expense altogether.
And the cleanup is not capitalized?
The remediation is not. We have met the threshold for capitalization for the remediation, so we have to expense that. I believe that started at the end of fiscal '24. So this current fiscal year that we're in, we have been expensing all of the remediation efforts, and we will have to moving forward.
That would be something just to be able to see, because once it's clean or cleaned up and then, you rent it, that cost should come way, way down, obviously,
It'll be a
right?
while.
Well, you would think or hope, but just to be able to plan for the future,
Did we skip a slide? Did we nope, we can move forward, sorry. Okay, so maritime operations, their operating revenues have decreased by 2% over fiscal '25 year in projections. The reserves decreased by 10%, and this is due to ongoing realignment with market rates. Salaries and benefits are down by 10%. The reduction of staffing levels is primarily due to the winding down of the warehouse operations. I believe this resulted in a 16 or 17 position decrease overall. Maintenance expenses will increase by 1166. Don't let that number fool you. This is due to decentralization of some of the maritime maintenance activities and centralization of others, and that cost is being absorbed by maritime operations. AP coding inconsistencies in prior years contributed to the fluctuation of budget to actuals for year-end projections. So again, this will smooth out over the next couple of fiscal years. Ultimately, the overall net operating income projects a decrease of 2% over fiscal '25 year-end projections.
Just real quickly on that, like the professional services are like close to 4 on that. Is that cleanup for maritime or what's it for maritime?
Stevedoring is included in that.
Okay. Okay, well, let's see, that's something that's totally, yeah, okay. Basically our employees. Okay,
No.
Well, stevedoring is separate.
I know, it's separate, but it's gonna fluctuate with how much business we do.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna fluctuate, okay,
Okay. So moving on
Like
to.
the maritime business we do,
right.
yeah.
Moving on to real estate. Operating revenues increased by 1% over '25 year-end projections. The reserves increased 2%. Salaries and benefits are up by 33%. This is anticipation of filling existing vacancies. Maintenance expenses decreased by 100% over fiscal '25 year-end. This is also due to the redistribution of the maintenance expenses. Miscellaneous is up 183% due to tax expenses previously coded to executive. AP coding inconsistencies again contribute to these fluctuations. And then the overall net operating income projects an increase of 10% over fiscal '25 year-end projections. And then also included in this is the electric utility. Here we go. Operating revenues for the electric utility are 9% over '25 year-end projections. The public purpose fund is projected to increase by 80,000. Salaries and benefits have increased by 391,000. This is due to the reallocation of salaries and benefits costs for the employees that are participating in the electric utility day-to-day activities. Utility purchases are up 19%. This is due to the increased power supply purchases. This is attributed to a large customer that we brought online recently. And overall net operating income projects a decrease of 90% over fiscal '25 year-end projections.
Just one comment on electric utility. With all the recoding and all the reallocation, we'll have a much better idea of what's going on in the utility. And that will allow for us to look at our costs, look at our rates, make sure we're covering our costs adequately, basically tracking that business that we're in.
Yes, definitely,
And again, a budget cycle or two. Yeah.
for sure. Moving on to the indirect departments. We'll start with executive. So executive salaries and benefits are up, I believe that's 5% over year-end projections. Benefits costs are aligned with actuals. We did remove the administrative staff from the salary projections. This is a reduction of $30,000. There was a portion of another administrative assistant that was allocated to executive, but moving everybody back to their home department created that small reduction. Overall expenses are down 5% over year in projections. However, this includes increases in professional services. These are aligned with the strategic planning initiatives. And then we also shifted the fuel revenue and expenses to facilities and maintenance. So there's a lot of things that were coded into executive in prior years that could really be housed within the departments that actually conduct those activities. And so that's what we're doing, is we're moving things to where they really belong with this new budget. So I have these grouped by the respective divisions. So we'll start with the administration division. So administrative services, the salaries and benefits are down approximately 3,300 over a year in projections. This is due to a shift in part-time expenses. And it also includes the 2.5% COLA. So I want to remind everyone that that is throughout the entire budget. Overall operating expenses are up 54,000. This includes postage, training, shredding, and scanning projects, and centralization of office supply purchases. One of the things that is new for this particular department this year is the shift of purchasing all of the port-wide office supplies. This was being done in facilities and maintenance, and with the change in the procurement and contracts position and restructuring how we're doing things, we've centralized that, and it has shifted from out of F&M, facilities and maintenance, and into administrative services for the next fiscal year. Information technology expenses increased by 38%. This is primarily due to new and ongoing IT service agreements. These agreements have, for the most part, are all maintenance agreements that are ongoing that were no longer paid for by grant funding. And it was a significant dollar amount. I believe it was almost $600,000. So it was a very large chunk of increase to their budget in terms of those agreements. So human resources, their expenses increased 14% over fiscal '25. This is due to realignment of expenses within the new Tyler system, and then salaries and benefits realignments and position reclassifications. There's a little bit of reclassification going on with their existing organizational structure, and that's reflected in that increase. For risk management, the expense increase of 52% is primarily due to increased insurance costs and professional services related to the management of the insurance claims, but it also includes the risk manager salary. The position was initially hired out as a specialist, but it has been upgraded to a manager position, so there's additional salary and benefits costs associated with that. That is also built into this budget. So for Port Police, the expense increase of 7% is due to new software maintenance agreements. These were, I believe, Flock. I think there were a couple of others that were new for this current fiscal year that are not included in the IT budget that are a part of Port Police's budget. They also have a new K9 purchase plus training, and then safety equipment replacements. And I want to say that the Port Police is very lean, so there's not a lot of room for contingency or anything in their budget. They're very lean, and they have historically been very lean. So for the finance department, the expenses increased 5% over fiscal '25 year-end projections. This includes the addition of procurement and contracts officer and the assumption of all the procurement and contracting activities, and increased professional services for new contracts aligned with strategic planning. This includes a long-range financial plan and the cost allocation plan. So for facilities and maintenance, they have a 6% increase over year-end projections. The notable changes in the department. We realigned the staff salary and benefits allocations, going back to how it was structured in Great Plains with the old chart of accounts. We had maritime, we had terminal warehouse, real estate, and indirect. And with indirect, there was the maintenance department, and the maintenance department was split 25% across each one of those. So maritime had 25%, real estate had 25%, indirect had 25%, and warehouse had 25%. So realigning that, we moved all of those salaries back into the facilities and maintenance. And then we have some realignment and redirection of some of their more centralized operations. So the redirection of the fuel revenues expense is now in facilities and maintenance, And then the redirection of centralized port office supply went out into administrative services. And then 75%, again, of prior expenses were coded within other departments, so it was really difficult to gauge what was truly a maintenance expense versus what was attributed to which department. And then going through some of these expenses, some were coded to real estate when they should have been coded to terminal and vice versa. And so we've realigned a lot of that, and especially with having more department oversight in these activities. So for Regulatory and Public Affairs Division, environmental has increased 29%. This is, again, due to cost of remediation, permitting, and then small amount of Dock 20 aerator expenses. Again, salaries and benefits are realigned based on staffing allocations. Government Affairs, the expenses are increased 9%. This is primarily due to the realignment of salaries and benefits. There was a lot of staff percentage allocation across this particular division, and so we realigned the salaries and benefits to be housed within the departments where they primarily did their activities. Grants, the expenses increased 183%. This is because we've onboarded a person, and this person has things to do, and they will have a contract coming up for grant management support. There are some small training opportunities included in this, and then we have a full annual salary and benefits package included. And then public affairs increased 13%. This is due to, again, realignment of salaries and benefits, and then decreased port promotion expenses over current year budget. Other items of note, the personnel listing is reduction of 17 positions. This is primarily due to the winding down of warehouse operations. The debt obligation is $3.8 million for this upcoming fiscal year. And for cash flow, we have a budget projection of 211 days of cash with an ending fund balance of $31,314,390. And that is concluding the operating budget. Any questions?
Are there any public comments on the agenda items, on this agenda item? Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the budget. A lot of work went into this.
Committee report first. Can we do?
I kind of gave the committee report earlier, but
Yeah.
would you like to comment?
Yeah, I will say that there is a lot of work and a lot of progression from last year's budget, and what was promised to be filled in was filled in at this budget. And I appreciate David asking some of the questions early on. We had some more emphasis in our earlier meetings, and I think we got the information that we needed to understand where everything was going. So thank you, Paula. Thank you to all of your staff. Wonderful job, and we're all in favor of the budget.
Agreed. Any other comments? I'd like to ask for a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, item 7. Yeah. Item 7, I'm looking for a motion to approve the salary schedule for staff. That's a
So that was
increase of 2.5%.
2.5 based on CPIU Pacific for April, just because of timing. So we have to do it in April. So it was 2.5 this year.
So is this, it's retroactive to April, or?
No,
it start for the-
no,
the-
it starts
for
July
this year?
1st, but we have to
July
use the
1st, yeah.
CPIU from the April because the May doesn't come out
So
until
moved.
June 15th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Item 8, consideration approval of the capital improvement plan. And that goes back to,
Back to Paula.
Paula, you're up again.
Okay. So a little bit about the methodology used to formulate this year's capital improvement plan. We looked at project priority. Again, questions asked, is it critical and is it aligned with port priorities? Project feasibility, does capacity exist to begin or continue the project? Evaluation of funding sources, what is the feasibility of receipt of the originally identified revenue sources? This is something that we take into consideration when dealing with grant-funded projects. And then consideration of available unrestricted cash. What level of unrestricted cash can be utilized without jeopardizing the need for cash flow in emergencies? So this capital improvement plan is for fiscal years 2025 through 2030. Projects approved, including projected costs over 5 years and funding sources. The 5-year plan includes infrastructure and improvements totaling $185,684,340. This includes 1 year's of vehicles and equipment as well. Total fiscal 25-26 projected expenses is $24 million, with $400,000 of that for vehicles and equipment. Funding sources include the Public Purpose Fund and then unrestricted cash.
When you say expenses, you mean outlays, not
Correct,
expense.
correct, capital, yes. Here is the amount by category. As you can see, we have a significant amount. We plan to invest in buildings and structures for fiscal 25-26 at $11 million. The second largest is environmental with $3,551,000, and then streets at $3.5 million. We do have additional projects for port administration. That includes the Tyler project, and then we have external signage. Tyler is ongoing, but the signage is a new project.
And this in particular is just for
For
25,
25-26, correct. So in terms of cash flow, based on the first year of the capital improvement plan numbers, the projected beginning unrestricted cash is $38.7 million. This is based on what our year-end projections are. Net annual operating income before depreciation is $7.7 million, with the total 25-26 proposed capital improvement plan investment of $24 million, the reduction in our debt service of 3.8, and then other of 12.6, which is potential grant funding. The projected ending unrestricted cash is 31 million, and this gives us our 211 days of cash.
What's that 12.6 makeup? Because is that like coming in, or is that substantial?
That is grant funding we already have. We have just not expended.
Galveston, PIDP.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have it. Yeah.
Yep. And that concludes the capital presentation. Are there any questions?
Good report.
Is there like a timeline, like this is what you're gonna do in 25-26, what you're gonna do in 26-27, this is what you're gonna do in 27-28?
Well, the 25-26 is what we anticipate completion in, or at least starting within 25-26. Typically with a 5-year plan, we project them out 5 years, but some of these get pushed back and continue to be pushed back, but we still need to include them in the list so that we have them on our radar. For us internally, we've had many discussions on what we can and cannot accomplish within a fiscal year, but with this particular fiscal year, we've had several discussions, and these projects that are outlined for this current year are ones that are either already in progress or in need of beginning. So they are in various stages of completion, and then some of them are new.
So a lot of what we're still doing is reactionary, unfortunately.
Right.
So as we get into the strategic plan, we'll be able to better map out what we're going to do.
So I was just like thinking out loud, I was, do you guys, because I don't remember this, do you guys come back in and say, okay, this is what we planned for 25-26, and now we're at the end of 25-26, and this is what we've accomplished? I mean, is there any it's going back to like a timeline.
Track, well, that's the
Just
thing.
as
Yeah,
spreadsheet
we have in the
or-
past, but we have been working towards,
Right.
Anthony's been beating me in the head for a couple of years over this, but trying to get a plan presented for the next 5 years. We're not at the point yet where we know, because we still are reacting to so many deferred maintenance issues, and we just don't have the
But
funding to do that.
even this, I think it would be helpful, and everybody could chime in, yes or no, is even with this 25 or 23 that we've committed, every 90 or 6 months, just give us a
An
little
update.
chart.
I
Well,
was-
we internally in the finance department are working on a quarterly report to include with the financial reporting so that you have that updated
See where we're at,
CIP
yeah.
activity information.
Like
Just
in
the-
progress,
Status
completed,
report, yeah.
haven't
About to start.
started.
Yes.
all that.
Quarterly report that I give you.
Yeah.
Lists
Write
every
it in there
project,
somewhere.
what percentage is completed, what percentage of budget, it has all that in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand it may not be user-friendly, so we
Yeah.
can, I can do that differently and separately maybe, because it's buried in the report, right? So,
Okay.
so that's not a problem. So we do that, but it may not be the way you want to see it, so I can modify that.
As long as it's, against this number, so we see where we're at in real time, 'cause a lot of times you can't tell.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
we
until
have
you-
all that info, I
Yeah.
need to put it in a user-friendly
Yeah,
way for you.
that would be helpful for me.
I have a question, capital improvement,
Semi-annual update for us,
A mid-year budget report?
well, physical, not on paper.
Get deeper into the
Or
strategic plan for years, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This'll make better
have we
sense.
thrown in any of the emergency declaration costs into our 25, 26?
We have not. We do not know at this point in time what those costs are going to be. I think we should be receiving proposals shortly, but not in time for preparation of this, unfortunately.
And that may change what we do. Unfortunately, it's fluid, so something might drop out of the CIP for this year to make room for the funding of the other.
And that's a perfect example of, so when that
Yes.
comes before us and it's $2 million, you say, well, we're gonna shift this, or we think this is gonna take longer, just so we know we're aligned with the budget, you know,
Yeah, that could be a,
real time,
it could be a big mover,
yeah.
And
depending
then
upon options.
in the back, the project summaries, is that all the capital, like, so what are the project summaries?
The project summaries are reflective of what's included in the five-year plan.
Okay.
So all of the projects should have a short summary.
Okay, great. That's what I was sort of looking for.
So I'll break down the last
The
quarterly,
timeline.
just the CIP projects or the ongoing and proposed and get that out to you separately. Just to see if that format works for you.
Yeah, or just that, because it's like, where's that starting point, you know? That's just a thing, so you make sure you're comparing apples with apples. That would be the,
And some things may have started 18 months or 2 years ago, and there's going on, or maybe that we haven't started them yet, or maybe we're just starting them, and it's gonna go on for another 2 years, something like that. And of course, the wharf, the bulkhead project, that's going to be very fluid and affect our capital budget dramatically. But given what we know at the moment, are there any public comments on this capital improvement plan? Any further comments from the commissioners? I'd like to ask for an approval of the capital budget plan.
So moved.
second.
Okay, Trezza seconds, Duffy firsted on that. Thank you very much, guys. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
Good job.
Jeff? Or do we want to get through these and then go back to the consent?
I want to throw I in just before the committee reports. Okay.
Okay, now the fun stuff. We get to clean up the Navy's waste. So the item before you today, this afternoon, is a remediation consultant contract. Try this here. As you know, in the early 2000s, the port took over Rough and Ready Island. The site, the facility had about 52 sites that needed to be cleaned up that were identified in the consent agreement that we signed with the California Regional Water Quality Control Board and the Department of Toxic Substances Control. We entered into this agreement and to remediate those 52 sites. So the remedial action is complete for 24 of those sites. No further action. We have no further action letters. That's when we can be done with them. Our goal, we cannot wait till we get to all of them closed. We've got 24 sites that are under remediation or closure, 5 sites that are under active remediation, and then in the closure process, we have 17 sites, and then we have 5 sites still to be evaluated. I know that doesn't add up to 52 sites. That's a little bit more, but some of the sites have been split up into 2 different sections after our discussions with the regional board and DTSC. On April 25th, we issued an RFP for remediation consulting. We got 4 proposals, Geosyntec, Nino and Moore, Terraphase, and SLR. The consultant's specialized experience with projects of similar scope, complexity, proposed costs, and additional evaluation were looked at in all of the evaluations. Staff recommends that we move forward with Geosyntec. We've been using Geosyntec for the last, I think, 9 years. They have very good experience. I want to say they've worked on most of the military facilities in this area, Alameda Naval Air Station, Moffett Field, Hunters Point, Mare Island, Treasure Island, and Concord Naval Weapons Station. And what we saw with some of the other proposals that we received was there was just not a lot of depth in working on former Navy or former military facilities. Geosyntec has been great to work with. They have an extensive knowledge of ports and Navy facilities. They've got great staff, and they've been able to really develop good relationships with regulators as well. Next slide. So here's the map of the sites that we have. Remedial action complete, or is anything in green? Investigation ongoing and in progress is in yellow. You can see that, so this is one of the sites, Site 47 is one of the active sites that they are working on right now. That is under the Home Depot distribution facility, as well as you see a number of sites out here that line up with the Stockton Soda project. And so that's what we've been focused on in the last 2 years, is really preparing the sites for capping or closure. Next slide. So for the scope of work, you guys can all read that, but they've really been providing environmental compliance services. They've been now working with the staff at Trammell Crow to get that site closed, as well as they've been hired also from Stockton Soda, so they're working on those sites as well. They're providing site management and technical support. They're able to help us with other.
I got a question from Anthony.
Jeff, when you said
Yeah.
they were hired by those two, so.
Just Stockton Soda,
separately?
just Stockton Soda separately to provide some guidance on, because it is complex. We've gone in already on Stockton Soda site. We've moved a lot of the landfill material out of the way of the rail track, but we're going to have to come back into and be able to provide additional remediation once the rail track is built in there. So we're working with them.
Both of those sites have approved plans, or at least tentatively approved plans.
They do
by the
have a-
regulators, so that's why we did the budget, and that's why we, okay.
100%, yes. They have approved plans by both agencies.
Trammell Crow site, is that staying on schedule as far as development goes? How's the environmental affecting the development?
It has, I don't know if anyone here is, Anju, are you familiar with Trammell Crow? I believe they're on schedule. Yeah, they've been doing really well. They've moved very quickly. And when we went in and did the remediation for Stockton Soda, that was the intent too. It was at the time Stockton Soda, they needed us to get in there, so we went in and did the remediation in the middle of winter, which was not ideal. We had to deal with a lot of water. We had really heavy winter that year. And so that escalated the costs quite a bit. But Geosyntec has moved very quickly and is helping us to get a lot of the sites ready for development. We'd like to go in and just clean them all up at once, but as we know, it's really expensive and time-consuming. So we're doing as much as we can, with our accounting and with the dollars that we can allocate to remediation.
I finished up a remediation that lasted 23 years,
Yes. Yeah. That was just one site?
on site.
Yeah. So to have 52 of them is challenging, but Geosyntec's been a good partner in helping us through. We've had other consultants who have helped us with this work. It was more expensive. We also got into a situation where the staff was not getting along with a lot of the regulators, and that was causing additional complications. And just for your awareness, I mean, the regulators, they bill us for their review of what we submit as well. The chair is familiar with that. So we spend about $150,000 just reimbursing the regulatory agencies to review the material that Geosyntec provides. So it's in-depth and very time-consuming. But other things that they help us with is we just discovered on a rail project for BWC, we encountered an underground storage tank that was abandoned that we had no idea of. So that's when we rely on as well Geosyntec to come in and help us walk through that as well. Next slide. So the recommendation is to authorize Port Director to enter into a standard agreement with Geosyntec for remediation consulting services for a 3-year term with 2 optional 1-year extensions, and the budget for next year would be $1.6 million. Any
Any more
questions?
questions from the commission?
Yes.
Do you know who the other 3 proposals were from?
Yes, they were from Nino and Moore. They were from, if you want to go back to that slide, Terraphase and SLR.
Were any local or no?
There was, one was from Folsom, one, I don't know where Nino and Moore was from. They have offices all over, I think they started in Southern California. And SLR, Jason's on, he was supposed to give the presentation. I don't know if Jason remembers where SLR was from. Or maybe Anju, are you familiar with them?
Yeah, so SLR is a Canadian-based firm, actually.
Okay,
So they
Got-
don't represent the law.
got it.
And
Yeah.
Geosyntec, where are they from?
They are based in the East Bay, yeah.
But we have offices in Fresno and all over the state of California.
I have one question. I assume the 1.6 million and whatever they helped us budget was in the budget we just approved.
Yes, yes, it was,
Good.
yeah.
How long had that storage tank been there?
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know.
World War II?
40 years probably, yeah.
More, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions from the commission? Any public comments on this agenda item? I'd entertain a motion to approve this,
Second.
Sawyer second, Trezza moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, I'd like to vary from the agenda a little bit here. I'd like to go on, and I'd like us to go back to a consent calendar item. Consideration of possible authorization of the Port Director to continue to affirm previously adopted Resolution 8571, finding an emergency situation existed, necessitating immediate expenditure of public funds without competitive bidding for the dock bulkhead voids found under warehouses and access points on the long, as I call the Long Wharf.
So moved.
I'm sorry, the resolution should actually be this commission affirms its earlier action to find that there's an emergency.
I read the old one. I read it from the agenda, I'm sorry.
That's the old one.
Okay, where is it here?
Hold on. It's not on there because I didn't put the.
There we go. Consideration of possible authorization for the commission to retroactively affirm, consider a finding of continuing the emergency, and if the finding of continuing emergency is made by the commission, then consider delegating to the Port Director authority to repair or replace the public facility, take any directly related and immediate action required by that emergency and procure, the necessary equipment, services, and supplies for those purposes without giving notice for bids to let contracts form the May 5, 2025 West Complex Marine Terminal Erosion Emergency. Close enough?
Close enough.
Great, okay. And we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, appreciate that. Okay. Committee reports, please. Are there any? We gave the committee report for budget.
We have the committee report on the director's compensation, but we'll deal with that in closed session.
Yes, okay. Anything else? Report director's comments, please.
Just a couple things. It was the consent, but the pilot appreciation reception we have each year is August 22nd in the Fairmont, so you should have gotten an email about that today. The golf tournament last Monday was a success again. Jeff and his group did a great job, and the employee group here. And thank you to the commissioners that participated. We appreciate that. And we'll know next month, Jeff, what kind of dollars we're going to be able to provide to the Boggs Track community. And then one last thing, Leadership Stockton had a graduation last week, I believe, and Linda Fistolera, who's in our HR department, she graduated from that. So that's great. Great for her. She is out today, though, so. Right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, commission comments. Commissioner Sawyer?
I just went to the golf tournament. I thought it was well executed, well done. Having gone to 1 million of those, I thought it was good and tempered, which is appropriately for the port's reputation. Thank you for that. And other than that, I thought it was well done. Good job, Jeff.
Right. Commissioner Duffy?
I spent the day out at the community farm here at the Edible Schoolyards instead of golfing with you. I wished I was, no, I really wished I was doing what I was doing, picking a little summer harvest and also getting a good feel for what they're doing with the land. I had 10 folks out with me doing some work, and it was nice to see what they've done with it, and they've got great ambitions for the future. I like our involvement out there. And secondly, I'd like to know what's going on with the Build Back America loan program and where we are today with what we found out last month.
So right now, we're still working through what we can do with CalSTA and that funding we have and how that's going to work out with the changes we have. Paul, have you got any feedback from Build Back America yet?
I don't have any.
Okay.
Just waiting on the grant funding if we're able to repurpose the funds.
So that's a process that we're working through now.
So I'm more concerned with that, us figuring out if that is an appropriate line for us to get the credit to use on other things other than the one proposal that you might have that you're thinking about. Because it's good long-term money.
Yeah, I think
If it's available.
we're still working through what we're going to do with the PIDP, and I think some of the birth improvements and things like that might be a fit for that. And Jeff, the birth improvements we're pushing through with PIDP, or do we know if we can even do that yet?
We haven't made a firm decision on what our project's gonna be for PIDP. That's something we need to talk about.
So I'm more concerned again about it as source of funds
Yes.
for us. And so to ferret out everything we need to ahead of time to put it in as a source of funds for us or not. If it's not a viable source, that's what we want to know in the early days. And then you can figure out where it ends up in the portfolio if you need
Based
it.
on our meetings with them, it is viable, and at least from what they said, the rates should be lower than what we could get commercially as well, so.
Okay. So I guess, again, what I'm asking for is to make sure that we're all set and we can utilize that money when we need to. And it doesn't feel like we're exploring for that. We're looking for the project and then looking to go get the money.
I don't think we can get funding from them unless we have a project to go up against it.
Right. What I'm asking is to make sure that we're
Yes.
in there,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
know the
yes.
process, that we can pull the trigger when we need to, and then it's put into our financial arsenal, right? That's really what I'm looking
Fits
for.
our needs perfectly. I mean, that's what they're
Fits our
that's what they're
needs.
set up for.
Yeah,
is-
it does fit our needs, I think, but the process to apply for and the other things, I think it should be a good on-tap kind of money for us. And that's what I'm looking to find out if we
Yep, okay.
have executed to that level yet or not.
We have not to that level yet.
Okay. If we could get a plan together so we know when we'll be able to understand if that's a good source of funding for us or not. It's a priority in my mind. We're looking for money. We've got lots of projects out there. And it would be a good source to tap in early and not late.
Yeah, the focus at this point for us has just been the money we have, is that still usable? Can we still use that? But your point's taken, and we'll make sure we get into that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, we don't want to have a big source of funds languish a little bit and get lost in the shuffle, certainly.
But again, I think to your point, that the CalSTA funding is not enough to solve our problems, so we still, that's still.
It's
an
all
avenue
about
that
the
we need to
levers.
take. Yep.
What lever can you pull at what time? Just prep your levers, right?
Yep. Okay, Treza, comments?
Not much. I just appreciate the work that went into the budget. Very good job.
It was a lot between the two, old system and new system, with the percentages all over the place. It was really hard to wrap your hands around it, trying to get a hold of it.
Good start.
But Paula did a great job with her team and made it totally understandable to us, with a little bit of struggle for me, that's for sure. So. Anthony?
I would just add that I went to the golf tournament too. It was very well attended and it was very well organized, and I thought it was a good event. Everybody did a good job, the staff, and I know Jeff, you took the lead on it. You did a great job, but really the staff, we had a lot of our staff there, and it was very well administered, and I think everybody had a good time, and hopefully we made some good money.
Yep,
I think so. So that's it. The only thing I'd comment about Commissioner Duffy's thing is I would just agree that we try to get in line, because so many of these government programs, there's like 10 different things that if you didn't do correct, they kick you out, you know, like you can't start a project and go into the middle of it. So it would just be good to follow up to know all the details of it, so we don't, you know, when we try to go for it 6 months or 2 years from now, we're not realize we lost out on some technicality or something.
And we've made initial introductions, but nothing beyond that, just,
Yeah. That's
Is
it.
that one of the duties of our grants person? Is that just new grants?
this would be finance, something Paul and I do.
Finance, okay. Okay.
It's kind of the big takeaway I think we all got from going to DC this year, was that this thing can really be something that can help us fill in the blanks on a lot of the.
And the way
budget
they
matters.
explained what makes you qualify is us. I mean, everything we do and the assets and revenue generator benefits us, where it may not a city or some other municipality.
But we're one of the economic pile drivers for San Joaquin County, so that makes us important enough as long as we do everything correctly, right?
Well, for them, I mean, as long as you have the revenue to justify and the project, then you're fine.
Okay. Good.
Just,
Margaret?
again, the budget, a great job to your team and to the ad hoc committee too for working on it, so. Moving forward, that's good.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items?
Yes. Two online comments. My name is Joanne Sagarel, and I am a resident of Stockton. I oppose Golden State Natural Resources project and bid for an export terminal because Stockton is a disadvantaged community under AB 617 in a non-attainment air quality zone. The Port of Stockton and its tenants are a pollution concern for our community. The GSNR project will increase air pollution during a time when we are doing everything we can to reduce air emissions. I personally suffer from asthma and know dozens more with the same or similar chronic breathing issues. These wood pellet storage facilities have been shown again and again to self-immolate, explode, and cause disastrous effects to the surrounding neighborhoods. The Port of Richmond already rejected to having this kind of facility built. That should be telling enough of how adverse people are towards this project. I asked the Port of Stockton to not enter into an agreement with GSNR. This is from Valley Improvement Projects, is a nonprofit organization that works to improve the quality of life of underrepresented and marginalized residents of California's northern San Joaquin Valley by advocating for social and environmental justice. VIP is greatly concerned with the Port of Stockton's plan to consider entering into a tenancy agreement with Golden State Natural Resources on a project to store and ship highly flammable wood pellets made from forest biomass. This project would have severe negative impacts for surrounding communities in South Stockton, including a host of transportation-related air pollution in the form of additional ocean-going vessels in our already congested Delta waterways, and increases in heavy-duty truck traffic in our crowded trucking lanes and surrounding roadways. The project has claimed they will utilize rail to reduce truck traffic, but these claims are dubious at best, considering numerous projects at the Port of Stockton have already faced significant delays resulting from the region's inadequate rail infrastructure. This project also still has yet to notice or hear from the many communities their trucks will traverse from mill to port. communities that will bear the brunt of this increased traffic. We ask that you agendize the GSNR project in order to have a critical and robust conversation about the project and its impacts, solidifying this discussion and relevant presentations and data in the public record. As part of this, we ask you to invite scientists who have studied the impacts of this project to share their findings with the Port of Stockton. We also ask that you hold a joint meeting with the staff of the Port of Stockton as well as local partners and organizations to discuss the impacts of this project would have on surrounding communities. Thank you for your consideration. And those are all the public comments that I have.
I see no other public comments. So with that, we are going, in accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, and executive session will be conducted pursuant to government codes 54956.8, 54956.9, and 54957.6. Going into closed session.
In 1845, when Charles Weber acquired a 49,000-acre parcel from his luckless business partner in exchange for paying off his grocery bill, he couldn't have anticipated what awaited him 3 years later.
During the gold rush, Argonauts could come to Stockton en route to what were known as the southern mines. But the principal artery for transportation and the fastest way to travel was via water.
There was no Stockton in those early days. There was Charles Weber's tent town on the San Joaquin River that served as a jumping-off point for the gold fields.
He realized that the San Joaquin River was going to be the principal aid in developing his city, and Charles Weber was able to attract enough business people to establish hotels and restaurants and freight companies, and they would cater to the wants and needs of the miners. Those who did not make their fortune, in many instances, had been farmers in their previous lives. And coming back into Stockton or Sacramento, took a look around the Central Valley and realized there was great agricultural potential.
We're in San Joaquin County. This is the most productive agricultural area really in the world. You grow corn, wheat, almonds, walnuts, fruit, a whole host of different commodities feeding the world. You couldn't have the unique agricultural environment we have without the river. That is what allowed this state to turn from a gold mining state, if you will, to a food state.
California's Central Valley is blessed with the best soil there is. Back then, the problem was less about growing the food than it was getting it to market. Without a statewide railroad system or even decent roads, Stockton was in a strategic position to be a hub, connecting the valley by river to San Francisco.
From gold rush days, riverboats carried passengers and cargo on a daily basis between Stockton, Sacramento, and San Francisco.
With the Central Pacific Railroad's completion of a branch line in 1869, connecting Stockton with the Transcontinental Railroad, the city's vision as a trade and transportation hub began to materialize, except for one critical issue.
There were rather tortuous waterways leading from San Francisco to Stockton, weaving and turning through the islands. And because of hydraulic mining, there was a lot of sedimentation of these river areas, and so it was becoming rather shallow.
In addition, ships
Okay, microphone's on. The Port Commission took reportable action during the closed session. The commission considered the port director's employment contract during the closed session and recommends the following for agenda item 15. A 4-year contract effective July 1, 25 through June 30, 29. Annual base salary of $375K effective July 1. Subsequent base salary increase of a floor of 2% based on CPI-U with a maximum of 5%. Port contribution to deferred compensation up to the IRS maximum first year of contract for each subsequent year, up to 1,000 increase or IRS maximum, whichever is less. Vacation accrual increases to 20 days per year. Board has discretion to provide severance pay if port director resigns. Are there any public comments to this agenda item?
None online.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? None? There being none? Okay. Next item. Today's meeting will be adjourned in the memory of Richard Joseph Rodriguez, passed away on April 10th in Stockton at the age of 79. Richard was born June 17, 1945 in Mexico City, Mexico. He was drafted into the U.S. Army and served during the Vietnam War while stationed in Germany. He worked for the State Department Foreign Service Counselor Officer in Thailand and Romania, Treasury Department Customs, and the Department of Homeland Security Customs. Upon his retirement, he then went to work for private security for DynCorp at FOB Camp Buka Qasar, Iraq. I wonder if I knew him. Richard enjoyed photography, gardening, logistics. He learned 5 languages: French, German, Thai, Romanian, and Russian. He volunteered as a tutor at Flynn School in San Francisco. He's survived by his beloved wife, Bonnie, of 37 years, 3 children, Richie, Junior, Donna, Pence, and Shafi, Casey. On behalf of the commissioners, port director, and staff, sincere sympathy and condolences are extended to the family of Richard Joseph Rodriguez. Another amazing person. Meeting adjourned.